So my freshman year of college, when I was 18, I really considered myself a writer. I remember there was one project where I wrote about 140 pages of something, and at the time I actually knew Gloria Johnson. She read it. She could probably vouch for the fact that I had some kind of serious sample. So I think at the time I was just looking to write anything that people would want to read, like stories and stuff. At one point I felt like I had to write just one big serious thing, and then I didn't think I was God anymore. I wanted to do some kind of like war and peace, like veteran type, just thing about duality, where you learn from the dark times and that is your shield to grow your wings and all that crap. But I think with me, I have so many failed ideas, and if anything, just sharing these ideas may be the only thing I get out of them. But I mean, they're all possibilities for a bigger piece I could do, something I can be creative with, or what have you. I actually knew a lot of people that could write in college, and they kind of went about and did, grip work, PA work, small jobs, maybe submitting scripts or things like that to studios. But that was something I had some kind of exposure with. And then I had another friend that had a large part in getting film studies classes at the university we attended. So I knew they really respected their craft, and they literally put everything into it. Like, if they were bums in the street and all they could do is write a script, even if it was just the 30-second crappy Batman movie, they would write that script because they knew that they were paid to do it. They were hired to do it. That's what they would do. So I knew people that they would put in the work. And I don't know if they were possessed by some kind of pyramid god or what, but they were doing it. So I had various ideas. One was a Willy Wonka teleseries called Golden Ticket, where Ferrero Rocher basically just decided to have a contest and give out a factory, and the person that won was Willy Wonka. So it's these like PR savvy type executives that tell Willy Wonka that his factory has these kinds of problems and is having trouble with PR in these ways or the other ways, telling him he needs to update the safety because of the children. So to satisfy OSHA complaints, they're like fencing off the chocolate river. They're putting up barriers on the fan that sucks people in. There's just little bits about putting up a minimum wage sign, and the Oompa Loompa is like, you better pay me, And then as they're not slaves and, they're getting their pay and whatever, they like start like listening to like Apple products and acting more like, I want to say, the Spanish speaking crowd, Latinos and stuff in America. So, I guess there's like little tropes or observations I have about society in there, like, gaining a foothold into like the lower middle class, upper middle class, that kind of thing, how behavior and attitudes are changed along with accepting that role in society. Stuff about Charlie Bucket being poor. Like, he doesn't have any clothes, so Willy Wonka gives him like a little Willy Wonka Jr. suit that he'll certainly get made fun of for wearing, but he's like, no, but you just gotta convince these children, like he's telling him to act like the suit, because if he acts like the suit, then he'll be like, he won't have to be Charlie Bucket anymore. He could make up a persona that, you know, he likes to deal with, you know, being, I guess, hungry or something. And then there's the idea that Charlie says that he's hungry and he needs to eat something besides just chocolate bars. And Willy Wonka's like, I'll pay you minimum wage. You work in the factory, you want to earn it, you know. You don't want to just be handed everything. So, like, you know, he does child labor in a horrible chocolate factory to buy groceries for his family. And he makes, like, just enough to, like, still be poor and for everybody to have groceries. But you know, he's in this factory doing work, but also, like, kind of keeping the eccentricities, like tying up the loose ends. You know, I want to say, like, keeping the tail coat from burning or dragging or something like that into, you know, something that will ruin something else. So, you know, Violet Beauregarde talk about, like, she's sick of being called a Smurf and Mystique, and, you know, like, Willy Wonka's like, oh no, blue is beautiful, like, it's cool to be blue. Haven't you seen Avatar? You could be cool like the characters in Avatar, and all this other stuff. And I think it's just, like, you know, looking at, like, the boardroom, like, you know, Willy Wonka's, like, you know, answering the phone call in the middle. He's like, oh, sorry, you know, my most trusted Oompa Loompa is calling me. You know, he's doing that. And, so, like, I'm not sure if, like, the factory wants to scapegoat Willy Wonka or if they believe in him, but, like, they really just, you know, they're just like, whatever, you know, like, because he seems like he knows what he's talking about, but I think it's just, like, the final products coming out as a result of a bunch of bullshit, you know, but they're selling candy. Everyone likes candy, like, you know, it's hard to lose because there's so much obesity and all that, but, you know, I was just figuring that, you know, like, Willy Wonka, he's, like, talking to these children to settle lawsuits, you know, because the company just doesn't want to get sued. He has to fix something, you know, or maybe, you know, the victims, the children that were adversely affected in the book by Roald Dahl, maybe they, you know, he thinks of them to be in, like, a commercial, or, you know, because they have to do community service, you know, for some kind of, like, negligence or accident or something. Like, there's some excuse to get them involved in, you know, either helping or resolving some bullshit. Like, maybe one of them is Charlie's friend or something. Like, I was just thinking about ways to tie that in. Like, maybe there's, like, a couple of new characters or something here or there. But that was one of my ideas. And I read the book as a child multiple times. So, like, I feel like I know a little bit about the characters. So, yeah, other ideas, like, that I have kind of hit on a lot of politics. So, at one point I discovered that before Social Contagion, the amount of people that identified as having, like, dysphoria for gender issues, like, was literally 50% of the amount of people that have a confirmed, SDS, meaning they have, like, a sexual development or intergender spectrum disorder. So I was thinking about, like, ways that maybe there could be a potential study, or maybe I could tell stories involving characters that have gender spectrum disorders, because there's a lot of misnomers. So yeah, most people that are on that spectrum have completely typical, parts, but they may be a little bit off size, or shape or something, like smaller or whatever. So I think that's a big thing, is like before people knew a lot about it, they would say those people had like both sets or something like that, but very few people even have like mixed sets, as far as like, the organs, so to say, like the main major two. Yeah, but the reason why I come back to that is because I knew someone that looked like she had Slayer's, is like, what was it called? It is a Turner syndrome, where the Y chromosome is suppressed. And then I knew a couple of people who looked like they had classic and mosaic Turner syndrome. And I actually knew someone who I was pretty damn sure had Jacob syndrome. So basically, like, the story that I wanted to tell was like completely contingent, like circled around a certain person that I needed to write this shit about. That if this person could help me, then I can make this a story that I could share with people. But this person, like, totally did not want to interact, talk, or share any information, which I kind of understood, but I don't care. And that's a big problem, is sometimes when you write, people really have a problem with what you have to say, or your story, or the subject, or whatever. And that can really impede how far you can go. Or even if people like you, like, it could cause major access issues. So, I'm not like a famous person, like I've known a couple of people that kind of got a little bit under their wings as far as like Hollywood, I want to say like they were in the shadows, like kind of like underneath the wings of, people that, like they didn't care. They were willing to do anything for their dreams, I'll say, but they were under the shadow of people that, I thought were kind of ideal or something. But yeah, it's kind of like with me, it's very difficult to like share the breadth of like what I'm saying, because like I've been I want to say like in different spots of the political spectrum. I've been in different spots of where I classified myself in the LGBT spectrum, hierarchy, whatever you want to call it. I've been married, so in a lot of ways I feel like I'm kind of just trying to either like prove myself or really go for it, because I've gone as far as I can go and I'm still alone. I could have made other options that would probably be fitting for a woman my age if I had gone there, but I'm nearing the end of my reproductive age or whatever time that I could start a family, which I really should have by now. But I've made sacrifices, and I know that I should either do them or not. And I used to be the kind of person which I could get in the room I needed to be in. If necessary, I would do what I needed to do in the right time or whatever. And I always believed in that, but the thing is, like, I found someone who had traditional morals ooh, bad guy, ooh. That's just one of those things, like, I became the reclusive weirdo, but I also had other issues and shit, but I became the weird person. So, like, you could either write as an outsider or you could write as an insider. So, like, what kind of paradigm, like, who am I supposed to copy to be an outsider? You can't. You have to adapt to all of the bullshit that comes along with being an outsider to do that, which I think I've had 15 years of that, and I'm just learning how to pen. Or you could write as the person that everyone sees oneself as and run along with that, which, you know, I used to have kind of normal friends, you know, like people that were highly accepted by society. So I'm not going to filter this. I'm not trying to maintain my little stage persona, which I would tell you is my truth and authentic self. I'm not trying to bore you to death either. I just want everyone to see the face that I want to show them, which a lot of the times is a cackling dumbass, you know, is a brute, you know, is based. Like, as far as things that, like, keep me from sleeping at night, like, there's nothing, like, no issue, no name you could call me which would keep me from sleeping at night. But it's the things that I haven't done with my life that keep me awake. So I just want to say, like, I spent a lot of time with someone that was very antisocial, very robotic. So there are some people that are told that they're very talented that never really develop any skills, because why would they? You know, they already have it all. They're smart. You know, they're blessed. They achieve. They can do this. You know, but they can never, why would they have to go farther if they're perfect just the way they are? I've never been told I'm perfect, okay? I've never been told I'm perfect. I do not like people being told they're perfect. Did Jesus do that? No, okay? Jesus would tell you if you had, I want to say, Beelzebub, gluttony, okay? Jesus would tell you if you were a liar, a thief, you know, wrong to people, you know, a blasphemer, someone who's, you know, against him. You know, there are very few people that Jesus interacted with who he's like, you got it, good job.